Clippers tie the series in Dallas at 2 games apiece, led by Kawhi Leonard's 29 points and 10 rebounds. They've reclaimed home court advantage as this series shifts back to Los Angeles for Game 5 on Wednesday. We've got your post-game coverage right here on NBA TV. Welcome back into our studios. I'm Kristen Ledlow. He's Ryan Hollins. Steve Smith is joining us as well right here on Playoff Central Live. Guys, as we wait for these guys to get to the podium and address the media, let's start with some big picture concerns. How concerned are you about Luka Doncic and the Mavericks at this point?
I'm extremely concerned in the sense that his conditioning, how much help does he have? You know, in games 1 and 2, there was such a high volume of Luka Doncic where he had the ball in his hands, where he's scoring, he's assisting. He was doing any and everything for the Dallas Mavericks, an organization in which I played for. He needs help. So I don't know if it's going to be Tim Hardaway Jr., possibly Brunson into the starting lineup, but you've got to find a way to get Luka Doncic some easy buckets, Smitty, because he's doing everything, and it really showed in these last 2 games.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm totally with you, and I think we love Luka because he's that dominant and dynamic with the basketball. You said it best. How can somebody get him an easy bucket, but also how can somebody else step up? Tim Hardaway Jr. didn't have a great game. Maxi Kleber didn't. I thought the adjustment of T. Lue, starting Nicholas Batum, gave them the situation defensively where all 5 guys could switch, and there was no lane for Luka to have a diving guy to pick you apart. So give T. Lue a lot of credit. Give Nicholas Batum a lot of credit. Came in, stepped up. I thought this was the Clippers' best defensive effort we saw so far in the playoffs, and obviously led by the 2 stars offensively. But you're right. The Dallas Mavericks going to have to find some way to score, and maybe, I think, Ryan, yes, Porzingis, put him down on the block a little bit, let him draw some double teams with his size and maybe get somebody some easier shots because of his size down there on the block.
And it's not conventional, but this team's their offense predicates their defense. You know, that's just the way that Dallas is built right now. So if they can control the pace with Luka getting to the free throw line, attacking, that's when they nullify the Clippers. It's not going to be their defense, unfortunately, and the Clippers found their calling card, which was their defense.
You mentioned, Smitty, that it was their defense that predicated their offense, but we talk a lot about the 1-2 punch that is Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and what those 2 are capable of. Break down what worked so well in this one from those 2.
Well, I think we start off with Paul George, how he's played. Both those guys have been terrific offensively. They've done a nice job, and we'll watch and see. Here's Paul George. He's been fantastic offensively, obviously taking a lot of criticism in the bubble, but use your size. Great job of being 6'9". Then you get a chance right here to watch him, and the ball movement by the Clippers, it got around the horn, it touched the paint, and then eventually Paul George been able to knock down that 3-ball, Ryan.
Biggest thing I see with the Clippers this time around is trust. Look at Kawhi Leonard. He's not playing against a set defense. He's getting out early. No one stops the basketball. That's a bucket, Mr. MVP. And then again, getting on the block. Here's a mismatch. See, Dallas doesn't load up. You got 3 guys ball watching on the weak side. Okay, Porzingis is pointing. Should have been there. Pow, on your head, Kawhi Leonard.
What then, if you're the Mavs, do you do differently defensively against those 2 as they found this rhythm?
When I look at this unit, I said defense isn't their calling card, but they've got to be smart defensively. You know, Smitty and Kristen, they have to be early. They got to communicate. Maybe you still have to score through 2 or 3 defenders, but you've got to force the Clippers to do something that they don't want to do. Last year, they were so excellent in the success they had against the Clippers in making them play one-on-one, making them a little uncomfortable. Right now, things are just too easy, and you got to get back in transition because the Clippers want easy baskets, and they got them tonight.
Well, we're going to talk a lot more about that, but first we want to hear what Luka Doncic has to say as he's sitting down.
But, you know, what's so tough is I play with Kyrie. I always said he's arguably the most talented, and I played with Hall of Famers, the most talented player I've ever played with. He can shoot the ball like Ray Allen if needed. If he had to be just a catch-and-shoot guy, he can do it. He has the best handle I've ever seen of anyone I played with. No disrespect to any other ball handler out there. And he can play, make, and pass. He can do anything on the floor. You just question at times motivation, consistency. If we got a nitpick in James Harden, we see what he's done. But now James Harden's in a role, Smitty, where he can facilitate 18 assists tonight. Everybody said he's the one-on-one isolation guy. 18 assists. Are you kidding me?
And I'm with Ryan. I mean, for James Harden to basically come in and accept that role, I think it said, whew, as a coaching staff with Steve Nash, because without somebody accepting that facilitator role, he would have had a tough go at it as a coach. But I think when James Harden came in and said, I'm the point guard, Durant was like, I'm going to always be a scorer. It took the pressure off Kyrie Irving. I can just be a two guard in a point guard's body and go out there and score. So for me to sacrifice for James Harden, it's really not a big time sacrifice. We're just not seeing the 50, the 60, but we're seeing wins, and a possible chance for this guy to get his first ring because of he accepting his roles, which is still 25 and 18 or something like that.
Yeah, which is still a pretty impressive role. Ryan, I want to ask you, not who of these guys is the most valuable, not who of these guys is the best one-on-one player, but who of these guys do you see as the most important to potentially contending for a championship this season?
They can't play this. They can't do this without James Harden. You know, James Harden has the ability to facilitate, score, and I always say he's a counterpuncher. You know, he takes whatever the defense gives him. If you get up into him, he flops. If you get physical, he gets to the foul line. But he can get anywhere he wants on the floor, and he's the most equipped to make those guys feel comfortable. Kevin Durant's excellent, but I don't want Kevin Durant bringing the ball up floor, especially not after an injury. And sometimes Kyrie just may not be feeling it. It may not be his night. But the one thing that James Harden has done is consistently he will make the right play. And guys, Kristen, I don't think that he got enough credit in Houston for making the correct play. Everyone saw the one-on-one. That was their system. I don't want to say there was no one else to help, but the system was created for him to take those shots. So James Harden, by far the most important, maybe not the best player, but the most important.
Smitty, same question. Do you see it the same way?
I totally agree with Ryan. I'm going to just add this. You know, after James Harden, the most important next to me is Coach Nash. Because when it becomes down to Steve Nash, everybody says the chemistry of these three guys. Let's talk about a first-year head coach, and when it gets down to when they're having these tough games, how do we respond when there's three Hall of Famers, some of the best ever, all have a different idea? I think it's Steve Nash after James Harden is most important.
Now, this team is quite obviously not looking beyond the Celtics, but the three of us can sit here and look beyond the Celtics if needed. This is a team that's looking to contend for a championship. So we can talk about their offensive numbers all day and night. But defensively, which of the teams in the Eastern Conference do you think could give this team the most problems?
The Milwaukee Bucks.
Really?
You know, the one thing about Milwaukee, we talk about how prolific they are offensively. Now, Milwaukee said, you know, we're going to take the defensive route. We're going to trade and go out and get P.J. Tucker. We're going to make a move and also go out and get Drew Holiday. So those defenders can technically match up with that big three. And if we're going to say that there's one weakness that they couldn't address in the buyout market of trying to get a Drummond or, a JaVale McGee, they don't have anything at the rim. And Giannis Antetokounmpo has accepted this role, Smitty, of a roller and a diver. So the Milwaukee Bucks are a team that's athletic enough, they can defend. I know the scoring's not there, but I'd be nervous about playing Milwaukee if I'm the Nets.
Ryan said it best. At the rim is the Milwaukee Bucks, and it's Joel Embiid. If he wants to go out there and play big boy basketball, I am with Ryan Hollins. Those are the two teams for me. I would even say more of the Philadelphia 76ers if he wants to commit Joel Embiid to every trip down, punishing the bigs and the Brooklyn Nets.
Well, again, we'll continue to look ahead in the Eastern Conference playoffs, but the Boston Celtics are not done yet, and Brad Stevens is addressing the media now.